Okay, this is we're here again, Tisha. Hopefully wouldn't be here, but you know, it can still end early. In the basically this year is from Rabbi left with certain parts from other places. I highly suggest the Macabbi movie, that whatever they have. It has amazing. It's very, very, very strengthening. I stole a couple things from there, but it's only a couple pieces, and it's still worth it to hear the whole thing. First of all, today's reading in the Torah that we don't work here, so we didn't hear it, but I just looked to see what it says. Can you hear me about this? Anyway, okay. And it says, V'asitem pesel kol tmuna. Hashem says, I gave you everything great, and you went and you made an idol. Sorry, pesel tmunat kol. Excuse me, not kol tmuna. Usually, tmunat kol is a picture of everything. And I was just thinking, this is not Torah from Sinai, what I'm saying. But what's the idol worship of today? Tmunat kol. A picture of everything, meaning we have access to internet, we have access to the whole world, a picture of everything. That's our idol worship. What's our idol worship is running away from Hashem to something else. To something else. It could be a book, it could be this, it could be nothing terrible, but the running away, what's idol worship? It's called Avodah Zarah, right? It means strange service. What's strange service? It means not service of Hashem, who is intimate, who is close. You're going to something strange, something else. You're running away from your intimate relationship with Hashem. Okay, and that's, by the way, the things that we lost the Beis Hamikdash for was because of strange service and sinat chinam, baseless hatred, which is running away from intimacy with people. Okay? People are Hashem, creation, His sons. We're running away from Hashem in one way, and we're running away from Hashem's people in another way. We're not wanting to be intimate. We're not wanting to connect. If we're very intimate, we wouldn't say bad things about people. We really love them, and we really love them. We'd find good in them and find why they're doing this. We'd not try to find the terrible things about them. And the same thing, we wouldn't run away from Hashem either if we wanted intimacy. Okay? So this idea of what are we running, Galus eyes is running away from Hashem to not be with Hashem. To be in entertainment, to be in this, to be in that, not to be with Hashem as completely as you could be. Rabbi Kellerman, the late Kellerman once said that when at the receiving of the Torah, there was the chariot of Hashem was there, whatever that means, whatever. And there were different like animals on the chariot, one of which is a bull, I'm not sure, bull or whatever. And when they came down, when Moshe Rabbeinu came down and they looked for idol worship, what came out was a calf. Okay, something similar to what was on the chariot. So he was saying it was sort of like we were running away from looking face to face at Hashem, and it's not just taking His hand. His hand is still a connection, but it's not close. You don't have to look at the face. It's not as intimate. You can hold somebody's hand and be looking at something else and totally like you're not really attached to the person. You're attached, but not completely attached. And you have to look in their eyes and look at them very closely. That's intimacy. And we were running away from intimacy. Hashem says, you're running away all the time. I have to bring you back. I have to bring you back to closeness and to intimacy. And that's part of what the Churban of the Beis Hamikdash is about. And so I'm not going to what, Esther Katzberg, our friend Esther, she mentioned this, is that these weeks are called Bein HaMetzarim, right? The straits, when we have problems and we get, and it says we get squeezed in through our difficulties and our suffering so that we're squeezed in with Hashem. We can't run away from Hashem. We're like squeezed in the straits into Hashem. This is very similar to the story with Bilam and the donkey, right? He's on the donkey, and first there's a wide range, and the angel of Hashem comes, and so he runs, like the donkey runs away to one side. Then it gets the next time, the angel comes in closer, and there's like only one side to go to, not two sides. At the very end, the angel's right in front of him. The straits are very, very narrow. There's nowhere to go but to bow down. Right? He just had to like drop on his knees the donkey. Okay, so it's very similar to us. Hashem said, "Find me in the greatness, in the wonders that I give you. You can't find me there. I have to narrow it. Now try to find me. You still don't find me. I have to go even narrower into your suffering, into your difficulty, to the place where you're running away from Hashem. But it says where you're running away from Hashem, you're running back to Hashem while you're running away. Because only He can answer you. It says, "Batzarli then ekra, Hashem ekra." In the narrow strait, we're realizing nothing and nobody can help us. We're left with only one thing, and that's Hashem. And that's what Tisha B'Av is also about. We're stripped on Tisha B'Av of everything that we can do. Right? We're stripped of all the pleasures, all the physical pleasures that we're allowed to do. Okay, we're stripped of even saying hello to somebody. We're stripped of learning Torah. We're stripped of learning Torah, which brings us close to Hashem. But we're stripped of even that, so that we can say, "I'm alone. I have nothing to escape to. It's only to you, Hashem, that I can escape." That is sort of the message of Tisha B'Av, is that we're here alone, only with you. We're on the ground. One of the rabbis said, Hashem said, "I threw you from the skies to the ground." That you should realize that you're so involved with the ground. You're so involved with materialism. You're so involved with other things. Go down and feel it. Feel that you have to get up. That you need to leave this, like when we reach rock bottom on something, you have to get up. You have to grow. You have to see where the light is. You have to go on. So this is part of the message of Tisha B'Av. Want intimacy with Hashem, want the Beis HaMikdash, where we had the most intimate relationship ever, okay, where we got there, and the highlight of the Beis HaMikdash was Yom Kippur. The highlight was the Kohen Gadol going into the Holy of Holies, the Kruvim hugging each other, the fact that we were fasting, we were doing tshuva, and when we left, there were korbanos, there were sacrifices, and when we left, we felt cleansed and totally connected to Hashem, like the Kruvim, like the Kruvim that were facing each other and hugging each other, facing each other, whatever, hugging each other, like the face of Mikdash, whatever. But the idea being that you felt cleansed and you felt intimate with Hashem, because you were clean. There was nothing stripping you of being close to Hashem. You spent the whole day in tshuva and in closeness, and you knew at the end that you were atoned for. But now you were really clean, and the happiness that came from that cleansing of you and all of Am Yisrael together. And we were so happy for all of Am Yisrael that they were also cleansed. We were intimate with our brethren and intimate with Hashem. That was a closeness that we couldn't get all the time. So that was the beauty, and we don't have that because we don't have the Beis HaMikdash. We don't have that. So what it says, Tisha B'Av is the only other fast, right? It's a full day and has basically the same rules as Yom Kippur, except no tshuva. There's no slichot. There's no Avinu Malkeinu. Okay. In the morning, you don't even say the korban ktoret. Okay. We don't have those korbanos that say what's a korban? It says, "I am giving myself totally up to you, Hashem." Right? Instead of like every other mitzvah, it only fixes one limb. Okay, every mitzvah is associated to a limb, but the korban was associated to all the limbs together. When you gave a korban, all the limbs were like involved, so to speak, in this closeness to Hashem. And the Vilna Gaon says, had anybody done the korban with all the kavanos, with all the meaning, with all the thing behind it, that we were the already the tikkun of the correction, and we don't have that. We don't have that main vehicle, okay? And on Tisha B'Av, we don't do tshuva. What's that about? Rambam says that all the fast days are about tshuva. So how come we don't have, we should have, I would think that tshuva should be more tshuva on Tisha B'Av. We should be like begging and pleading, I'm sorry, whatever, the whole thing. We don't have that on Tisha B'Av at all. They have all the other rules and laws, but not that. You're allowed to say slach lanu, that you're allowed to say, but you're not. But the other parts of tshuva they don't have in there. What's the thing? And also the regular question that I left bringing up is how is it that regular mourning is immediately and then it decreases, right? And Tisha B'Av, it starts with the 3 weeks. There's some stuff you can't do, then you get into the 9 days, there's more stuff you can't do, you get closer and closer, more stuff, and then you get to the Tisha B'Av, and it's all the stuff, and then on the 10th, already a half day after when the real Korban was on the 10th, okay? And we're already getting up and doing our thing, and Shabbos Nachum was holiday, and Tu B'Av is really holiday. You can understand if you went through some mourning and right afterwards you got the Beis Hamikdash. It's a holiday. We mourn and we got the Beis Hamikdash. But as of you and I know, we don't think we got the Beis Hamikdash back, as far as we know, in all these years. So how in the world are we happy? Why don't we drag it out another 3 weeks, go backward? Like we got to Tisha B'Av, we did a crescendo, and then slowly move out again. And how is it that we're happy? And we can't be happy because now we can eat and drink now and listen to music, because that's exactly, we didn't get the idea of Tisha B'Av. The whole idea was, that's the Galus eyes. When can I eat? When I had to listen to my music again, when can I have a good time? When can I have my trip? That's Galus eyes, right? Galus eyes, you go to Yerushalayim, you say, I'm going to Yerushalayim, I'm going to the hotel, I'm getting a nice coffee. It's like all in the same breath, like whatever, it's, we're not saying there's anything wrong with drinking iced coffee. I'm just saying that our view of what's Yerushalayim should be only like the Beis Hamikdash. And some woman she wrote this, and she said she's from Bnei Brak, and she doesn't want when people come to Bnei Brak say Coca-Cola. I got to Bnei Brak, there's Coca-Cola. She wants, I got to Bnei Brak, Talmidei Chachamim, Torah, Hasidus, everything. Our eyes are like mixed up. We're seeing, materialism mixed together with Kedusha, and we're having a hard time separating it. We're like mixing them together. Like, I also want Kedusha, but I also want to have a good time. So we're not willing for the total intimacy. Okay, I'm not judging anything, God forbid. We're all we need to be also here in this world, But which one is more? Which one is less? Are we able to see what is more important to us? Anyway, going back to this idea, is that obviously when somebody dies, God forbid, a person is hit with a ton of bricks. Their emotion, they can't be intellectual about it, right? God forbid somebody dies for them. They don't want to eat and drink. They're not really hungry. It's not really this. They're not really want to have a good time. That's not what they want to do, because they want to be involved in, they don't even want to be involved. They are involved. They can't help but be involved in the mourning and in the pain, okay? So the whole mourning process helps them to slowly let their intellect take over their emotion. It's not that they forget the person, but it's a promise that if a person dies, Hashem will help them that the intellect will gain over the emotion, that even when they're sad, they'll be able to think of happier things. They'll be able to control where they're at. So sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're sad, but they're able to control it and get more control to the point that it seems like they forgot, but they didn't forget, obviously, right? So well, we can't do that for the Beis Hamikdash. We don't feel like a ton of bricks in us. What can we do, right? We don't feel that. We don't feel it every day. Where is the Beis Hamikdash? I'm missing it. So it has to be built, okay? It has to be built by slowly, right? Slowly. I can't hear music. I go to weddings. That's weird. How come I'm not going to, okay? Slowly, then I can't eat meat, or do something else. That also feels very strange. I feel that I'm slowly losing the pleasures that I have. And I'm saying to myself, it's weird. It's different. It doesn't feel good. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. To the point that we get to Tisha B'Av, we say something's really, really wrong. If I can't feel the Beis Hamikdash is missing, something is wrong. Okay? And then I'm able to mourn. I'm able to say, I have nothing. I don't have any pleasures. I can't do these things. I don't have anything. You gotta think. Then you gotta think. Where am I? I'm in Galus. You know, Hashem sent us to Galus that we would notice that things are wrong and that we would beg to come back. And that's really what Tisha B'Av is about, is that we realize we're in Galus, we realize we're missing the greatness of the Beis HaMikdash and the greatness of the Kavod of Hashem, and we want it back, and we're begging and pleading that we want it back. And in that wanting back, we also want back our intimacy with the rest of Am Yisrael. We don't want to have bad relationships. We want to have all of Bnei Yisrael be able to merit the Beis HaMikdash, even the friends that we're angry with, and even the people that we have a problem with. We want them all to merit the Beis HaMikdash and to merit to be there. We want to speak good about them. We want to be able to do that. Okay, but it's very hard for us because we're involved in the petty. And we can't see the big picture of what we're missing. If someone would tell us, you know what, if you stop speaking Lashon Hara for 1 week, we're getting the Beis HaMikdash. We were promised that, right? Wouldn't we all shut our mouths? We would really try, you know, and if we said, you know, it's a matter of you shut your mouth, you're not getting the Beis HaMikdash, we put tape on ourselves. We'd throw the phone out for a week. Whatever we would do, we'd say, maybe don't come in, nobody come to my house, I want to be here for a week alone, because I don't know if I can do it without that. But we would do everything in our power to do that, right? And how come we don't do it otherwise? Because it's hard for us to really believe it. It's hard for us to really think that we're causing this lack of intimacy. We're causing this hatred. We're causing this lack of intimacy with Hashem. We're running away to other things, entertainment, and everything else. We're not facing our beautiful relationship with Hashem who loves us. Okay? There's another reason that we do it gradually, as I last said, is really Hashem gave us opportunities to do tshuva. All the other fast days are an opportunity for tshuva. Right, we start with the Asar B'Teves, right? That we say, okay, you know, there was Yerushalayim's walls, we were surrounded, whatever. Okay, tshuva, we're allowed to do tshuva then. Tshuva, had we done tshuva, we wouldn't have gotten to Shiv Asar, the Tammuz, the 17th of Tammuz, which was even more, you know, restricting. And we wouldn't have, if we had done tshuva on the 17th of Tammuz, we wouldn't have gotten to Tisha B'Av. Hashem gave us an opportunity. He said, try. I'm giving you this, I'm getting closer, I'm getting closer, I'm getting closer. If you would have done it right and done tshuva then, you would have had the opportunity to not have a Tisha B'Av. But because we didn't get the message, right? So it's getting closer in and closer in to this place of these straits. So one of the Rabbanim said that these straits are also, in this generation, we don't have a collective galus. There used to be collective galus with the Holocaust. It was with pogroms. Now we have what's called, he says, an individual galus. Every person has their individual suffering, and it's not necessarily similar to the other person's suffering that they know, so they feel very lonely. Part of the pain is the loneliness in your own suffering, because it doesn't feel like anybody else is suffering the same way as you, because you're the only one suffering, whether it was a parent, whether it's a child, whether it's sickness, whether it's divorce, whether it's no money, whether it's arguing with everybody, whether it's not knowing, whether it's not having a house, whether it's no shidduchim, whether it's not children, whatever it may be, the person feels alone, right? Why do they always feel better when there's a group, support group? Because the people in the support group somewhat have felt what they have felt, not exactly, but they feel less lonely, right? So this idea of everyone is alone is our galus of this generation. You're alone in your own suffering. And the only way to correct that is to go in and help somebody else in their suffering, to be there for them, not to judge them. Oh, Hashem did this to them because there's the children up there because they did this. This happened to them because this. Why don't you just do this? Why didn't you do that? None of that. None of the judgment. None of that. Just be there for the person. Don't judge them and be there for them. Don't try to correct them. Be there for them, what they want, what they're asking for. Go back to intimacy. Take away loneliness. Take away loneliness from somebody, that's intimacy. Go back to Hashem, right? So if you try to not speak badly about yourself, try not to speak badly about anybody, try not to judge anybody, not try to be there for somebody, you go back into intimacy. And if you also say for Hashem, I also try not to run away from you, Hashem. Doesn't mean you can never have some vacation and some, and some relaxation, but that you're not trying to run away from thinking and run away from doing more and being there closer with Hashem. Sure.
When it's think about it alone, back to Medrash, where we really feel community, when an army says, Eretz Israel, where we have a problem between us, you feel like, Jews living together in Israel, there are Armenians all over the world.
But you'll ask a person who went through something and they could be sitting with hundreds of people and they still feel alone. They feel like nobody else is going through this, nobody else is understanding what they went through. You're right, you feel definitely more supportive if there's people with you and they love you and they come to you. That's what Shiva is about. That's what people coming together for Simchas is also about, to be there with the other person in their happiness, in their estrangement, in their whatever, to be there. You're right. So if a person feels yes, they feel supported for Hashem.
It doesn't mean that someone the other person.
That's right. Right. You might not be there for you, but they can't really understand you. But at least they're there for you. At least they're there for you and listening to what you have to say about how you feel about this thing.
In the past, there were also individuals.
Right, but there was a lot of things that were together. The pogroms were like everybody went to pogroms. The Holocaust, everybody was losing their family. Not that it was major tragedy and major depression, but the idea that they were in it as a nation, in it together, it still was impossible. I prefer to have loneliness or whatever than the Holocaust. But the idea is it's different now. It's individual, and therefore we have to reconnect all the pieces between all the people going through it. We have to reconnect everybody together and say, I love you. And even though you don't think like me, and even though you're angry at me, even, I want to be there with you. I want to help you. The whole thing. But going also back again is, Rav Lev said that there used to be a halacha in the Gemara, I don't know where, that you couldn't have a full day fast from Motzei Shabbos. And they weren't allowed to make a fast, like if there was some danger in the community or something, they felt they need to make a rabbinical fast for that day. They couldn't make it after Shabbos. Why? Because Shabbos was so holy and so intimate with Hashem that the contrast from that holiness to that day of darkness would be such a contrast that people would die from the contrast. So how in the world could they put Tisha B'Av, which is not today, this year, but Tisha B'Av often is on a Sunday, because it's either Nidche from Shabbos or from some other time. It's often on a Sunday, Saturday night, Sunday. How could they do that? He said, because that's after the Beis Hamikdash. When the Beis Hamikdash was around, Shabbos was like a flame. Torah that came out of the Beis Hamikdash, meaning it came Torah. Torah comes out of Zion. It was so, what we learned in Torah was like, what we got from Shabbos was like, okay, that to contrast that to coming down would have killed us. But after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, we lost a lot of the Torah.
That's why a lot of the people were dying from fear at that time.
Could also be, because the stark contrast of what you had and what you don't have is major depression, right? And so they lost the Torah, not completely, or Hashem, but they lost the intensity of that intimacy. The Torah is our intimate connection, and Shabbos is our intimate connection. We didn't lose Shabbos completely. That's why, by the way, what happened? Anyway, so Rav Les says we have Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbos before Tisha B'Av, and it says it's called Chazon because it says Chazon Yeshaya. The word is it's the vision of Isaiah. Okay, it says what's the vision? He's talking about rebuke. Okay, and then he does talk at the end a little bit better, something a little bit comfort, but really the vision is about rebuke. What's the vision? And he said the vision is that it says, Beni, my son. My son, I raised you and I exalted you and you sinned against me. but the vision is my son. I still call you my son, even though you've done the worst. And even if you've gotten to the worst position of being distanced from Hashem, you are still my son. That is a vision that we have to always have in front of us, that we are, as Rabbi Tzimheller says, small but beloved to Hashem. We're so beloved to Hashem that we are still his sons. That is our vision. That is our hope, that we are sons to Hashem. Okay, and so that is he said, some call that the most important Shabbos of the year. Okay, we'll say the Shabbos before Pesach or the Shabbos before Yom Kippur, but the Priya says that's the most important Shabbos, of the darkest time of the year, where you feel you're so distant, to remember that you are Hashem's son, that he doesn't forget it, and he's not going to destroy you completely, that there's always hope, there's always going to be the Beis HaMikdash. The next thing, and it says also why, that's what we can put Tisha B'Av now, after a Shabbos, because the Shabbos is not as great as it was, but we should know that it says that anybody who keeps Shabbos, even if he's doing idol worship, will be forgiven. Obviously, if he does tshuva, okay? But will be forgiven. Why? What does it do? It's very interesting. It says, Hashem says, I was disgusted with your Rosh Chodeshes. I was disgusted with your holidays, but it doesn't say I was disgusted with your Shabbos. Because on Shabbos, we return to Hashem. Every Shabbos, no matter how far we were during the week, we return to Hashem. The first Galus was Adam HaRishon, right? He was thrown out of Gan Eden. Then Cain, also after he killed Hevel, was also had to go and go. So he had to run around the world, whatever, right? It says, and so Adam HaRishon meets Cain, and he says, so what came up in your judgment? So Cain says, I did tshuva, and we came to a compromise. Hashem made a compromise with Cain after he killed somebody, the only other person that was, whatever. He kills him, and he does tshuva, and he says, we came to a compromise. What's the compromise? All week I have to wander. All week I have to be a nomad. And on Shabbos, I get to go back to where I was. Meaning, I don't know where he was physically, or just where he was spiritually. He gets to go back spiritually to where he was. Okay, so Hashem said, when you have Shabbos, that was the oath on his forehead. There was a letter or something, a sign on Cain's forehead. And what was that? Oath Shabbos. I don't know if it was a symbol of Shabbos or it was the word Shabbat. I don't know what it was, but it was, the oath was, and we know, Oti L'Olam. That letter or that sign is a connection between the Jewish people and Hashem forever. So we know the Shabbos before Tisha B'Av, which is the darkest day of the year, and the Shabbos after Tisha B'Av, which is after the darkest day of the year, our happiest times, because we remember that connection can always be returned if we are still connected to Shabbos, and because that will bring us back to Hashem. It will bring back the intimacy that we have with Hashem. It will bring back the other intimacy where we can look Hashem in the eyes. We'll bring back the other intimacy where we love every Jew. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad, okay? Shabbos, okay? That idea. And he says, interesting thing, he says, also Yom Kippur lost its greatness, okay? Because of the Korban of the Beis HaMikdash, right? Can't do the whole avoda there also, but the Yom Kippur, the whole gloriousness of Yom Kippur got lost. How do we turn the gloriousness to Yom Kippur back? By having a Tisha B'Av. We have the same day without the benefits, the same day without the tshuva process, the same day without the Kohen Gadol doing this whole thing. Okay, we're doing this now on Tisha B'Av. And we're doing it feeling sad and not getting that high that we get after Yom Kippur. We felt cleansed. So we do a Yom Kippur sort of in a sadness, and that contrast, Yom Kippur, brings the glory to Yom Kippur. Right? We have dark and light. We have something first dark and then light. It brings the glory back to Yom Kippur. So we have this dark day of Tisha B'Av, which prepares us for Yom Kippur. It prepares us when we get out of Tisha B'Av, we go into the Tshuva process very soon. Right? We have first some 3 weeks, and then we have also Tana, we have Elul, right? And we're back into the same process of doing Tshuva, which will make our Yom Kippur greater. Okay, so right after this process, we realize we have nothing but Hashem, we go into a Tshuva process. Okay, so that's what this day is about. You have nothing. You have nothing but Hashem. But the beautiful thing is, so how can we be happy on Shabbos? Right after what? Where's they said Rabbi Les said very beautiful thing. We mourn something that's dead. Right? And we forget it. Right? Not forget it completely, God forbid, but it gets right. Yaakov mourned Yosef for so long because Yosef wasn't dead. He didn't have the bracha of forgetting because Yosef had not died. So he continued to mourn, we continued to mourn. Our Beis HaMikdash did not die. Our Beis HaMikdash is in limbo. That's why we never forget and we never stop mourning. So if we're able to mourn properly, it means the Beis HaMikdash is still here. If we're not able to mourn properly, we've forgotten the Beis HaMikdash. It's like dead for us. But since we're able to mourn the Beis HaMikdash every single year for thousands of years, it means we have it. And we can have hope. So the fact that we're sitting here and able to mourn and sad about the fact that we've lost our intimacy with Hashem, and Hashem has lost his kavod in the world, and Am Yisrael has lost its kavod in the world, is our sign of hope. There is a Beis HaMikdash. We're just waiting to come down. That's why we can be happy immediately after, because we are sold. There is a Beis HaMikdash. If we can mourn it, that means there is one. But it didn't die and it's not gone, it's just waiting. It's a spiritual concept and it's waiting to come down. And so we go into a day that tells us, be on the ground, realize how far you are away from spirituality. You can't even learn the Torah today. See how far you are away from spirituality and that you want it. And you want it so badly, then we connect to the spiritual world and we connect to the Beis HaMikdash. It says also that spiritual things also, part of the reason that we can't do things when a person has passed away is that we are also connecting with the neshama's pain of having to leave the earth and the land and go totally to spirituality. So we also stop our physicality, right, when we mourn in the Shiva, to be together with the neshama, right? We're accompanying this neshama, right? At the end of Shiva, you walk out to accompany, like the neshama, that it can go up to spirituality completely, not be hovering over here. Down here, we're accompanying it with ourselves, with our own, try to be more neshamadik, right? So the same thing on since the Beis HaMikdash is spiritual, we try to leave our gashmias behind and just connect to the spiritual aspect of the Beis HaMikdash, and connecting our neshama with the spirituality and not with materialism is our hope of getting the spiritual back down again and having the Beis HaMikdash again. So maybe all, again, the same concept is go back to our intimacy with Hashem, try to not run away, right? Sometimes not running away, you just need a break, you need to whatever, so you have more koach. But sometimes it's running away to want to be intimate with Hashem, want to do more, and run to figure out a way how to connect to your fellow Jew, to be with them in their pain and in their happiness, not just in their pain, but also in their happiness, to really be happy for them, and to really not want to hurt their name or their possessions or how you think about them, that you really want to love them and you really want Hashem to love them, and that you're happy that Hashem loves them and you're happy that they're successful and you're part of their success because you were praying for their success and you want their success, and Hashem loves you because you want their success. Thank you very much. Does anyone want to stand up and stretch a little bit? Careful.